Good evening, everyone. Ellen Sutter of ESP Presents an ESP Book Chats, where we bring page turners your way. Tonight, we have our returning guest. This is day two with Dr. Velma Bagby, and we're going to talk about My 70s Love Story 50 plus years later. Come on in the room, Dr. Velma.
So it's a pleasure to be here with you today. I
Always,
know I know to
always.
brace my seat,
Yes,
get my
brace your seat because
seatbelt on.
yeah, put your seatbelt on because the hot one is going to be that bonus hot one.
Oh wow.
Dr. Velma, tell us about yourself and why you penned this book.
One of the reasons my husband and I had conversations over time, I've been writing about the topic of preparing yourself for marriage and dating with intent and all of that from the beginning. And then this time we decided to just pull back the curtain and share our story because we found so many are just not applying some of the principles that we were taught and that we learned scripturally. And so they're giving up too soon. And so looking at decades of how people misconstrue the idea of real love and how you have to choose each other every day, how it's misinterpreted and many times minimized. So we just wanted to share our own story of 52 years together and so that other people can see what it takes to really to experience a lasting marriage like you have a long-term marriage as well, but it requires a commitment, and that commitment requires that you choose each other every day no matter what you have to face. So that's one of the reasons. And he was over my shoulder at this position at my desk helping me to include the content that we thought was important to include.
Awesome. Dr. Velma, I was listening to, because I don't know about you, but you probably do. After the events that I listened to it, may not be again the same day, but I do listen to it. And then I hear some stuff that I know we were talking in real time. And I'm like catching more as I do a
Right,
replay.
right.
So as I did the replay, you mentioned in the when I listened to the replay
Uh-huh.
that you and your beloved husband, something happened within the marriage where you guys, if I heard it right, because I was shocked, my mouth fell down, but this is one of the transparency. You said you end up moving out
Yeah,
into your own apartment. Could you
yeah.
tell us about that? And I know that people think in 52 years, there's cake on the table every day. You said you wanted to be transparent. So I wanted to ask you about that. Number one, how was that separation and keeping that covenant? Because you know, when some people in the world, they would separate, and some people in the church, they would end up fulfilling that with another partner. So how was it keeping that covenant um, with you and the Lord and your husband, as well as maintaining that covenant both naturally and spiritually?
Well, one of the things that we never do or we forget to do, and that is to ask God's opinion about what decisions you make. It wasn't my decision. We were having a conversation and it wasn't going well. It was I say my part, he said his part, he said his part, I say my part, and just wasn't going well. So finally I said, let me just let him express himself. I'll sit there quietly. And during that quiet, that's when God told me, no, it's time for you to move. And I'm going, move. So it wasn't my decision. And that's the reason I talk to couples so much about how they independently make these decisions about what they're going to do. They take action without consulting God. But what I call this particular segment in the book on page 137 is called Moving Out So God Can Move In. God knew exactly what needed to happen. My husband held his family and us and me very dear. And what bigger way for God to speak but to remove every gift he's given you so that you can see what it looks like. And because I remember when we moved out, I planned to move out after I heard that, by the way, that's when I announced to him that I was moving out. My oldest daughter was preparing for college. So actually, while we were in our apartment, flew her to her college destination, and my youngest daughter was 5, and we came back. But the point of it, I didn't do that. I didn't come up with that idea. God told me that's what I was to do. And when I announced it to my husband that was my plan, then he didn't believe me. And so we slowly started preparing our boxes, and he slowly started seeing boxes pile up against the wall. And One day he came on. I made sure my cousin picked us up while he was at work, and we moved into our little apartment, and he was shocked. He said he came home. He said that was the one thing that hit him hard, to walk in and the only echo he heard was his own, and that the family was already out. So it was the time that God needed to really have time along with him so that he can minister and speak to him while he was by himself. He removed everything that was dear to put his attention on him. And while I was away, I did the same thing. I just focused on my relationship with God, making sure my kids were okay. And then I never told him where we lived until a couple of weeks. And then he could come and pick up my little one so she could spend some time with him. And because I remember after I found out that God wanted us to move, I told my daughters, and my little one said to her dad, Daddy, we're moving, but you're not going. Still didn't believe it. I made sure that I left everything intact. We still had our home that we had purchased. I didn't want to touch anything in the bank accounts or nothing of that sort. I didn't want it to be malicious at all because this is what God was telling me to do. So I wanted to make sure that whatever I got, it was based on my income. My income was fine and got our place, and that was it. And we were out 6 months when God said, "Okay, now it's time." I said, "What? What? What?" But I was being obedient because I never accepted it in terms of whether or not it was permanent. I said, God, I'm just going to trust you. That's it. I'm just going to trust you. But what we do and what I watch is people independently making these decisions and they maliciously want to hurt the other person and move out. And that's what they do on purpose. But this wasn't the place. So I call it moving out so God can move in.
Mm.
Because if
But
he's going to be that third chord, he got to stay that third chord.
but on a, like I say, on a natural sense, and being that people when they separate they fulfill it with another partner. So what was it naturally for you, Dr. Velma, that concept of you're by yourself, you got this 6 months together? And I know, being a woman of God, like I say, some people they fall and do it the same way. But what was that thing? And I know people are scratching the surface like I am to say, what was that thing, woman of God? What was that thing that kept you not as beautiful as you are, not to go outside, not to, I mean, you didn't have to have on a burlap sack and stuff like
Yeah.
that, but you're actually gorgeous. So what was it naturally, for those who scratching their head like myself, what was it naturally that kept you
I
together?
still had a covenant. I
Yeah.
still had a commitment. Why would I do that? I'm still in
Wow.
covenant with my husband. If God never told me that was what we were going to do, I had to make sure that every decision I made while I was there, I made it with him. Whatever he had me to do, that's what I did. If he didn't say for me to go A, B, or C, I didn't. I focused on just my relationship with him, strengthening my faith. I kept busy at the church. My children, youngest daughter, kept busy with what things she had to do. And that's the problem. When we're independently doing this on our own, we will do those kind of things that you just mentioned. But when you're
Mm.
trusting God to guide you, because who's the one who's telling you to do what you're doing, you stay still until He tells you what your next step is going to be. And that's what I did. And I remember saying to God, God, I don't know what this means, if this is permanent or temporary, but I'm going to trust you and I'm going to keep moving until you tell me what's next. And
was
that's
there
what happened.
Was there any backslap in the church? Like, I'm sure you guys went to the same church together,
We were on
and
different sides of the church.
oh, different sides of the track.
Matter of fact,
Okay.
he would beat me there. And I know that the deacons were trying to recruit him for the deacons board. And I remember one of the deacons came to me after church and says, Sister Bagby, we really want to get Brother Bagby on the deacon board. And I just hope you guys. I said, well, you know what? Talk to God.
Mm.
I wasn't going to let nothing interfere with where I
Ooh.
was. I said, you know what? Talk to God. Ask
Wow.
God about it and let him do it. Because if
Hmm.
this is who's running the show right now. So when
Wow.
he says this is to be, then it is. And sure enough, after we got back together, they put him on the deacon board. He soon became assistant pastor and later pastor of his own church.
And like
But
you
you could,
said, I'm sorry, Dr. Bell. Like you said your children were with you. Any slap back on the children or anything they have to
no,
face
because
with peers
no,
about this?
not at
No,
all.
that's
No.
beautiful. That is a beautiful thing, Dr. Velma. You
I
know, I'm
made
trying to
sure I
split.
got a place. I had security. I had security gate. You couldn't come into the apartment without someone letting you in. So I made sure that was what we had in order for her to have some peace.
Wow.
And so whenever my husband came to pick up my youngest daughter, he'd have to call me and I would have to walk her out to meet him at the gate.
Wow, that is so tough. I'm trying to imagine it myself. I can't even imagine that. And wow, there's so many things I got to ask you, Dr. Bellman. You know, this
Of
time goes
course.
really fast. And I want to ask you, you mentioned in there, we're talking about chapter one, our
Uh-huh.
destiny begin with my prayer. And
Right.
so I read through that, and Dr. Velma, you said, in making your husband to be letter, this is when you make your husband to be letter.
Mm-hmm.
And you said that's what you did. First, you prayed. You had made that husband to be letter. And so,
Prayerless.
my question to you is, how true were you to the thought process of that
Mm-hmm.
letter? And I know, and then how was it for you, the expectation of time from writing the letter to expect it to happen?
I
How
didn't
was
really
that?
put a time on it. I wanted to, well, first of all, I was 16 at the time when I wrote that letter. Following the instructions of my Bible teacher at church, said that we should have a vision of what we're asking God for in a husband. So it's different from what the kind of lists I hear people making today. They make a list of must-haves and absolutely have to have and things I don't want. And so therefore you're being God to yourself and not God being God. You're basically just like any other prayer. Well, Lord, I really would like to have this. God, I really hope you do this. But at the end of our prayer, we end our prayer with, Lord, let your will be done. Because
Mm,
God could have something bigger and better for you when you leave that open for Him. But a prayer list is simply that. I remember when I wrote it, I didn't have the kind of faith that they talk about, making sure you have more faith than a mustard seed. I hoped I had that at the time, but I also understood those in scripture who had that level of faith. I knew that God answered prayer. And so that's where I stood on the list. It was just simply me asking him for, please let him have this, Lord. Please let him have that, Lord. But it's not me giving a demand in terms of what he had to measure up and do, because a lot of women have a list and they can't even measure up to the things they want on the list for the man to have. So what kind of craziness is that? And so therefore, if this is a prayer list, that's why that word is in there. This is not your list of must-haves. This is just a prayer list. God, please, can he have this? And God will let you know what he wants. I met my husband 2 weeks after I wrote the list, not looking for a husband. I wasn't, I had to put all these pieces together later because I wasn't looking for no husband at 16. I was just trying to get out of school, get my job. So my mother didn't have to worry about me. So I could take care of the expenses of myself. But that was my goal.
love it. I love it, Dr. Velma.
Hmm.
Also, I'm going to reset. And
Uh-huh.
reset, I'm looking at the phone. If you see me look down and stuff, I'm looking to see who's on that page there. And so I see that I got two top messages and 25 people that I see on that crown thing. I really don't know what I'm reading right, but it's 25 there. Thank you guys for being here. Whether you swipe and share, come in, give me high five, or you head it toward your way. So thank you guys for that. Dr. Velma is our guest today, and we are talking about her chapter one in the book. Earlier, we talked about the introduction. That's what we did, the introduction part.
Hmm.
So, Dr. Velma, those that are looking on and those that who hope to be married or something like that, or you got people who don't want to be married and still you got the church mates who try to make people up and they hadn't even want some women do not want to be married whether they're Christian or not. You have people that's like that. And so with those who, and this is still in the conversation that we had when you wrote your letter and then things came to pass. I think you said 2 weeks later. Don't make sure I'm right in saying
Yeah.
that, right?
Yeah.
And so
10th grade.
should those who are in wanting for marriage, should they focus more on the timing? When is this man is going to come? Because I see that we have quite a few women that are in the church, and we talked about this before, Dr. Bama, too. And I love being raw with you and you being raw with me.
Yeah.
We talked about how in the church, when it comes to what we have single women who have children. We have women that, for some reason, their spouse is not with them; they're pregnant. We have some women that who are trying to be celibate and trying to live that celibacy life. And we have some women who our husband may have deceased. And so then you get people who are longing and wanting a man.
Hmm.
And then you get some who have the man and then they no longer at church.
Yeah.
That's just
Yeah.
something to add on. So, should they be focusing on the timing in the marriage? And then what does that, would you say, I'm going to put it this way, should they be focusing on the time in which the man should come? And also, should they be prepared to be a wife?
Well, I'm going to go back to what I said in the beginning. The reason I wrote that prayer list is because God is the one that's in charge. And therefore, I wanted the decision that I made to be the decision He wanted me to make. And what we have done is we become very selfish. We don't follow God at all. We go to church, but in many cases we don't follow God. And we don't seek His wisdom in terms of who He would want us to have. Neither do we take the time to prepare. And that's the reason in all of my books, the Catch series, I talked about it. We prepare for marriage like now, before he even arrives. We should be preparing. That's what that woman should be doing, getting herself ready for him. I remember you and I talked a little bit about Esther and how Esther prepared herself. She did a purification and then for 6 months, and then she did 6 months of restoration, putting in what she had to, removing the trash and then putting in a replacement for what was there. But technically, we should be doing that anyway. But we do it not to glorify the man that comes into our lives. We do it to glorify God. How can I be a better example of a faithful woman to God first? How can I clean up my life to be more humble and to be more open to whatever God has for me? How can I trust God more for the decisions I need to make? God, what is it I need to do? How do I get rid of all the past junk I've been carrying around? Paul says to lay aside every weight and sin. We just carry around so much junk and we expect that man to clear it up. How can I find, and many of them have a misconception of what his role is. He's not coming to make you happy. How can I find happiness now? Am I achieving everything that God would have for me to do right now as a woman of faith? And if we go down that list, we got plenty of work to do right now. He should be able to catch you off guard because you're busy doing what God has called you to do. And all of a sudden he
Come
shows
on.
up. Why? Because God is saying, I'm so pleased with everything you're doing. I'm so pleased with how you're strengthening your relationship with me. That's your priority because you're married to
Yes.
God first. And so be honorable. Purify your life. Clean up your life for God. Let God be honored by what you do in terms of where you are and what things you need to get rid of. That should be your focus. And then let God bring him into your life. You can make your prayer list just like I did. God, I pray that he's kind-hearted and giving, and Lord, that he loves some of the things I love to do. I love to go camping, whatever it may be.
Mm-hmm.
Put that on the list for God to look at. But he also knows who's the right match for you because
Mm-hmm.
he already knows where you are. And just like you're praying, he's praying too. God, send me that woman I need. He's praying too. So God has to be concerned with who he brings into his life as well.
So
And
true,
so
Dr.
those
Velma.
are things we need to do that we
You
don't do anymore.
We don't. You mentioned in your book too about a testing that you and your husband went through within your marriage.
Uh-huh.
So, what was the strategy that you and your husband had to combat uh, the things that you were going to make a real cohesive um, solution?
We had to commit to each other and to God. We had to commit to God. We agree that he is second in, that my husband is second in my life. God is first. And I had to accept the fact that I'm second in his life because God is first. his union and his relationship with God should always come first as it should mine. And so therefore I have to consult with God many times when we have some of those challenges. Lord, what should we do now? God, show us how to come to a solution with this right here. We pray. There has to be prayer in the household. We have to pray together. Sometimes we pray separately, sometimes we pray together. But we have to be a house that prays. We also have to accept that he is not my enemy and I am not his. If we keep that in mind, that the enemy to your soul is the one that hates unity and agreement, you know, those things God says he expects in a marriage, unity and agreement. Well, the enemy hates those. So you can expect there's going to be attacks upon your relationship and marriage. And so sometimes you have to just stand back a minute. Wait a minute. We were having a good day. What happened? Let's examine what's going on. Look what the enemy did. He tried to throw this in to throw us off track. So let's look at who the real enemy is so that we can learn to fight that way and fight together. So those are the things we had to learn to do. And I talk about the importance of being imperfect people, but yet choosing each other every day.
So true, and that's what we do. We choose each other every day.
Amen.
Like for those who looking on don't know, I've been married for 34 years,
Hmm.
and we've been together 38 years. So I'm gonna count
Amen.
all that time. Dr. Velma, you mentioned also still a segue to this question. Uh, you knew that the fire would come, and in that fire, you guys knew that going through the fire,
Hmm.
what was that recourse? Within that fire, you know the Lord is with you, but what recourse did you guys take to know, hey, this is a fire and this is not to break us or to make everything go up
Yeah.
in smoke? What was the recourse?
We have to remember that God is the refiner. He's the one that orders the fire. And usually, when He orders the fire, He's trying to burn off junk. He's trying to burn off trash, the gook. And so, whatever we continue to bring into the marriage or continue to carry, those things have to be burned off. And I remember the most difficult period of our marriage happened before my husband had to plant a church. So what do you do? What does he do when he sends the fire? It usually means he's about to take you somewhere else and he can't take you in the current condition. So he has to get rid of the dross before he elevates you and takes you to that place. And so whatever it may be something you guys were working towards, praying for, but God said you're not ready yet. Let's get rid of this junk so that you can get ready for the blessing. And that's what happened. On the other side of all of that, planted a church and he pastored for 10 years. So he had to get us ready for that. He sends the fire. And that's what you have to understand. Now, storms come. Yeah, things happen. Yeah, you come under attack. I mentioned the enemy who hates unity and agreement. All of those are storms and attacks. But fire, God is the refiner. And if he
Mm,
sends fire, he's getting ready to clean up something in your life. And all you can say, I remember saying, God, ooh, you really think highly of me because
wow.
this is rough right now.
Hmm.
Help us get through it because I know you have something on the other side of it.
Before I ask that bonus question that I have for you, Dr. Velma, like I say, we both are married. And we did say earlier that is that marriage, if you want him to make you happy, then you signed up for the wrong thing because he's not
Yeah,
there to make you happy. You will be happy, but
no,
you should have your own bag of happiness, and he's not
absolutely.
responsible for those emotions. He's not responsible for all that. And I don't know
Yes,
where we got that from.
I don't
Now,
know.
with saying that, Dr. Velma, is you got your seatbelt on.
I'm ready.
It's gonna
Wait,
get
wait,
real
let me take a sip of my drink
it's
real
gonna get
quick.
real hot. It's gonna get real hot.
Okay,
Really hot.
allergies acting up. Hold on. Allergies acting. Let me get ready. Whew.
I
Okay, fan is
because I was hot when I read. I said, "Ooh, I don't know. Should I ask her that?
okay.
Should I
Got
not
my
ask her
fan
that?"
on. Fan
Mm.
is on.
Fan is on. Everything ready. Okay. So in Genesis 24, we see
Hmm.
that Abraham he is about to die, but before he dies, he asks his servant, his servant that he admired, to promise him that he will get Isaac a woman. We see in the story also that this servant, he goes and wait, before that, Abraham said, don't let him go with the Canaanite woman. Go get some within our within our lineage. Okay. And so we see that the servant, he gets there, he goes to the well. He said, he prayed, Lord, if this, that. Okay. And so here we see this woman, and when they see a history, I don't even know why you pick Rebecca. But anyway, when we see in there, my question is going to get to this.
Mhm.
This is a hot seat to me.
Mhm.
We hear people, let's go because our audience is Christian, and you could have some non believers as well.
Mhm.
I don't know where to get the idea that God is going to hand serve a man to them, that God is going to, because some I see little social media things where there's Christian women say, how you going to be the man? Is God supposed to throw it down in the Bible and you open the Bible? It's a lot of cliche things going on there. So I don't know where they got the idea that God is going to handpick and put the man to. Meeting is not always a good thing. Hearted,
Okay, you froze for just a
and
second.
there's things that happen. But go ahead.
I said you froze for just a
Can
second.
you hear me?
Now I can.
Okay. Okay. And oh, I hate when that's doing. I'm about to see what's better. But
Okay.
I don't know where they get the idea that God is going to pick the man up, put it in their hands. That is the hot seat question. Where did that narrative come from that God is going to uh what they call that mail order bride for the man or the woman, just have them at your doorstep?
Well,
Where did they get this from?
well, you just read the scripture. That's probably where they got it from, because back in the biblical days, the father chose the husband. You didn't
Mm-hmm.
choose anybody. So I'm not sure if many women would be comfortable with that today. And also, when I was coming up, the fathers still were at the door to greet whoever was there to come and see you. It was important
Mm-hmm.
that the father vetted whoever that person was. And the reason
Yes.
he is the one that is asked, who gives this bride away at the wedding, traditionally that was considered the father's role. So he had to say, me,
Yes.
I give my daughter. And what he's saying when he says that, I relinquish my responsibility of being
Mm.
her covering, her
Mm-hmm.
protection, her provider. I released my responsibilities and I now turn it over to her new husband to take on those roles. And so
Yes.
we have so forgotten about why these things were the way they were and the beauty of it. Many fathers don't do that anymore. The role has changed. Fathers are not in the home. And so that's the reason I usually require and ask that you surround yourself with a wise counsel. Sometimes it's an old aunt that can help you. Sometimes it's somebody that is wiser, has experience, learned experience, who knows what that life is like in a marriage, who can help you in vetting those people who may be interested in you. And so that's important. It shouldn't be yours alone. People who believe in God and know that God will show you who that person is. That's important. Sometimes it could be a person that you even ignore. I remember reading a story of, and no, I wasn't reading a story. I wrote a story where the father's daughter wanted to, in the Catch series, the father's daughter wanted the man that was in her life at the time. And the father
Yes.
kept saying, That's not the one. That's not the one that God is showing me." And she said, "Well, Dad, who's the one that God is showing you?" He said, "You remember that young man that sits on the front row? He's showing me him."
Mm-hmm.
She said, "Really?" She went to her girlfriends who were single, no learned experience about marriage, and asked their advice. And they said, "Yeah, he's good." Now, the bottom line was this man was aggressive with her. Because of
Mm.
his physique and how he looked, the girlfriends felt that he was better for her. Because this young man didn't have the same physique as this guy, they were thinking he was better for her. But her father said, "I want you to do this. I want you to step away, ask God to show you, and then you come back and talk to me." And that's what she did. And sure enough, God agreed with the father that that was the one that was better for her. And that is the man she chose to start investigating and determining whether or not he really is. And it turned out he was. He was.
Mm.
So a lot of times we have this, we look at the outside and not the character of the person. We look at what they look like. I call them conditions. And girl, in 20 years, he's not gonna look like that. So don't be basing love on what he looks like, because let me tell you, it's not staying like that. You base it on the qualities that one of the things that I learned about my husband, even in high school, he investigated things. He wanted to know who I was hanging around with because I was always around quite a few people. That's because I had a lot of cousins at my school. Male cousins kept me protected and safe, so I hung around them, and all my other female cousins, we were always together. So he investigated. I found out after we got married. He talked to my cousin to see if my cousin was dating me. He said, "Man,
Wow.
no, that's my cousin." He investigated. He used to watch and observe me around the campus. While I was in PE, he came over to talk to me. I was playing volleyball. He asked me to come over and talk for a minute just to find out what was going on for that day. I had no idea he was doing all of this. Yet, before he even made a move. And that's what's important for us to recognize when a man findeth, and I always ask my husband,
Mm-hmm.
is it true that when a man sees her, he'll know? He said, absolutely.
I
He
believe that.
knows the moment he sees her, he is not going to make a decision about her. He's not going to tell anybody. He'll just continue to examine just to make sure that is that what he's thinking is the correct way to think that this is the person God has for me. So it's important for us to trust God in this process.
So true. Dr. Velma, I was asking my husband either sometime this week, I was talking about, and this might just be my own point of view, and he kind of seen it and kind of agreed with, a few things. But I think personally, Dr. Velma, that men really know what marriage is. And the reason why I say that is they know that they don't want her. They know, and we're just interested in getting married. You see women, they'll put on that engagement ring and they'll be engaged for 15 years. 15 years. And I told my husband, they fooling around if you got to be engaged for
He's still
15
looking.
years.
He's still looking.
Yeah, he's still looking and he knows
Hmm.
that he doesn't want that. So they
Right.
value that marriage. Now, I'll see some weddings like on social media or somewhere where the man, when he's getting married, he's in tears, full tears. And that
Hmm.
to me is like he knows he's given up everything for it. And if that marriage fail, he is not going to do it again ever in life because they
Right.
don't give up that much strong love like that.
No.
That's too much for them. And we'll
No.
clunk our head upside the head, and we'll still do it over and over again. They do not waste time with that type of emotion. So,
I
with that
know.
being said, do you
Uh huh.
think that, if I were to say it, I'm not saying that you agree, that I think that men have a clear vision of what marriage is? I believe. I can't say that they do, personally, but I believe that they get it.
I know the generations, our generations did. Your generation did. I don't know about some of the generation currently for those who had a male figure to pour into them. They have it. So they're still out there. But yes, it's important for them to understand that men value the ability to have that assignment to find her himself. When a
Mm-hmm.
man findeth a wife, not you forcing him into a
Exactly.
relationship, forcing him down the aisle. He gonna still keep looking over his shoulder because you took away from him
Yeah.
his ability to choose, which means he'll still be looking, wondering if he made the right choice because you made the choice for him.
Mm-hmm.
So it's important for him. And he values the fact. Just like I said in high school, my coworker, my classmate wanted to talk to my husband. And she came to me. And I said, sure, if that's something you want to do, go ahead. It's just not my approach. I said, I prefer him to approach me. And came back and said, well, all he did was ask me about you. Right. And I'm going, I felt so bad for her, but that's the choice you made to step out of your responsibilities as a woman to wait for him to come and choose you. You decided to go talk to him. And I told my husband, I said, I used to think you already had somebody because it was girls always following you around. He said that was the problem. They always just follow me. wasn't
And
interested
he's
in
a
none of
handsome
them.
guy. You're a beautiful woman, and he is a handsome
He
guy.
said
Yes,
I
he
wasn't
is.
interested in any of those.
Wow. I'm going to go back a little bit, and our time is going. And thank you guys for being here. And this has been, it's always a pleasure. We got one more day together next week, next Tuesday.
Yay!
And we thank you guys for being here. We're gonna hit chapter 2, and I'll be reading the book sometime, and I'll give you some feedback on this book. But
Sure.
you mentioned in the book, and then I'm going to say this, you give me your response on it, and then
Uh-huh.
we'll close with a takeaway.
Okay.
But Dr. Velma, you mentioned in your book that um, your husband had moved away. You guys were dating. He moved away. I believe it was a 2-year period, and you thought he was gone, but he was had came back. And then you said when he came back, it was very short with you, and you know that you didn't want to start that emotion all up
Right.
again. And you said that when he, you don't know why, but you just say, "Here's my yearbook," and then you didn't even really look. And then when you seen what it said, so how was that from moving away, him moving away, coming back, and plus rekindling to the point of he just told you was his wife in the yearbook? What was that like, Dr. Velma?
Well, first of all, he was planning to move back. The parents were going to send him back to the LA area, and they changed their mind. But nobody came back to me to tell me they had changed their mind. So the whole summer, he was still here. Never said anything. So I was shocked when he came on campus for the first day of school in 11th grade. Never said a word, still didn't say just hi, how are you, and kept on going. And so my husband and I, we have conversations about that moment. I said, why didn't you tell me? I said, women like closure. I said, you just left my heart like that and dated you for a short time and you wouldn't even explain. I just thought you had already moved on, all of those kind of things. I'm like, oh my gosh. So I was shocked when on graduation 2 years later, he asked to sign my yearbook on the last day of school. And when I looked inside, he signed it and walked away. And inside it says, to the woman who would be my wife one day. And I'm going, what are you talking about? We dated 2 weeks. Then you didn't come back and explain that you didn't go back to LA. You stayed in the Bay Area and all of that. I'm going, I'm not going here. I'm not going to go there. I kept my focus on what my plan was, and that was to get off of my mother's payroll so she didn't have to worry about me, to get my job and go to school at night. And that was where I focused my attention. And
Wow,
a
but
year
Dr. Vamba,
later,
what if it was what if it was for you to catapult you into that staying focused where God trusts you with a marriage? What if? I'm just kind of thinking that.
I didn't think like that. I thought in terms of if this, first of all, I never saw him as my husband at all. I just thought this was a little guy that just wanted to date, get to know us. We had fun. I mean, during the times we spent, we enjoyed the time that we had. The places that he took me to was wonderful. But that really is what it should be. Getting to know. We forget to establish a friendship with people. We just marry strangers. We walk down the aisle with people we don't even know well. So back then we did take our time to really get to know each other. It wasn't any apps or anything we had to use. You had to talk to that person on the
Mm-hmm.
phone. You heard their voice, their tone. You met in person. So you really get to know who that person is. And so those are the things I think was very important of the time that people don't get to have these days. They don't get
Mm-hmm.
to have that level of connection because you really want to get to know the person and be a friend first. You want to marry a good friend, a good buddy, somebody you can
Mm-hmm.
really relate to. But if you just choosing somebody based on what you see and what you see on the outside, and the only goal you have is to march down the aisle, then you're in trouble because you're married a stranger. You have no idea who this person is. So those are the things I thought about Miss Ellen at the time, because he did follow up a year later. He knew what my goal was,
That's so
and my
good. You didn't
husband
come
let
away
me
from it.
know that he knew where I was heading, and he
That's
had to
good.
make sure he had his stuff together too.
I
So
love
he
it.
stepped away quietly, but he
Mm-hmm.
stepped away to get it together. And that's
Mm.
exactly what happened. He came back a year later, had his career going. I was already working for state government, and that's what happened. We started talking and never stopped.
That's so awesome that he knew that as a man that he had to have
Yeah,
something together.
he knew
That,
what my goal was.
yeah, yeah, that type of thought. What's your takeaway, Dr. Velman? I can't believe it's almost 9 o'clock, Dr. Velman.
What's my takeaway?
Yes,
I love talking with you, Miss Ellen, because you always got some great, deep questions about.
thank
I
you.
know you're going to examine the material very closely, and you always have some great questions. And I know that as a woman of faith and a woman who's been in a marriage for a long time, you understand many of the things I'm saying. I
Yes,
had one fellow author who's been married, I think about 40 years now. She said, "Girl, I was in your book highlighting." I said, "What are you doing highlighting? You've been married." So it doesn't matter. We always got room to learn some things. And
that's
so
so true.
my takeaway is I hope from my learned experience that you gain some wisdom. For those who are listening, they gain some wisdom. And please use it and apply it because marriage is not we're not in high school. We're not in high school. It is a serious commitment and you have to make sure you're ready for it. And if you
Hmm.
made a list, make sure you can meet the list.
There you go. There you go. I thought you just put the paper in your hand and lit it. You always light a fire. As usual, Dr. Velma, she is going to light a fire that ignites love, understanding, joy, and peace in a marriage. And I look forward to having more talk about marriage. Dr. Velma will be on your chapter 2 coming
Yes.
up and just digging it. I'll deep dive, see what I see in there. And it
Hmm.
has been an amazing night. I
Thank
thank
you.
you for this moment, Dr. Velma, and for your
And
wisdom
thank you
and
for having
the
me,
different
Ellen. It's
things you
always a
have done.
pleasure.
Yes. Have an amazing night, Dr. Velma, until
You
we
too.
see you again.
Okay.
All right. Take care.
Bye bye.
Thank you guys for being here. Again, Ellen Sutter, the ESP Presents and ESP Book Chats, where we bring page turners your way, guys. And that was Dr. Velma. We talked to her. We're going to do our chapter 2 in her book, and it is always a wonderful time. Like I say, she do lights a good fire, keep us together on the marriage. What's real? Not all this picket white fist stuff, picket white fence. But you will have love. It will be beautiful. So again, Dr. Velma's book, My 70s Love Story, 50 plus years later. And it's always amazing. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you for your share, your swipe. Again, if you are looking for our scout out, shout out, do email me at mrssuds@yahoo.com. That's when it's a $35 show. It's 20 to 30 minutes. I have other shows, but this show is for those who really don't have time to do the 1 hour, 2 hour, things like that. It's a really quick 20 to 30 minute show. And it's a good platform for even if you are newly published. I don't care if you got your book yesterday, but do check us out. And again, email us. We have our August show going. We will have Omar uh, he will come, not Omar Tyree, Omar Small. We'll have him on our Noon Vibe show, and that is August 31st. So stay tuned. We do have a event August 15th with Omar Tyree being our special guest, and we have other guests that's there. Do take a look at our flyers and different things we have out there. So this has been an amazing moment. Again, I'm Ellen Sutter, the ESP Presents and ESP Book Chats, where we bring page turners your way. Have an amazing evening. Bye bye. Again, thank you to Dr. Vilma.